Special White Pine County Commission meeting, April 30th, 2020.
And Nicole, you're set?
Set.
Go ahead and unmute us, Mike. Thank you. Good morning and welcome to the Special County Commission meeting for this Thursday, April 30th. Would you all please stand and join us in the pledge? And Shane, why don't you lead us today?
Certainly, would you follow me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, as per the norm, we'll take this first moment for meditation, prayer, whatever you would like to do. So let's go right into that right now. Okay, we are going to open the meeting, and the first item on our meeting, as usual, is public comment. Is there any public comment either on the phone? Is there any public comment on the phone? Anyone out there? You see anyone, Mike?
No, I'll do it real quick just to make sure. We've got some great music going on.
We good?
Yep.
Okay, George, I guess you're up if you like.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, at your previous meetings held on April 8th and 15th, 2020, I asked the Commission if the property tax sale was going to be put on hold. I have friends that need legal help, but the free legal service canceled their recent visit because of the COVID-19 concern. No one is answering repeated calls to that service in Las Vegas. Will those that have difficulty paying their their property taxes be given the same consideration as those that can't pay their rent? This is an equal protection concern that I have for those that are poor and financially challenged at this difficult time. I'd like an answer. It's been almost a month, sir. Mr. Chairman, the Regional Planning Commission held a meeting on April 15, 2020, failed to send out agendas and provide meeting packets 3 days prior to the scheduled meeting as required by the Nevada Open Meeting Law. You have a carpetbagger sitting as chairman and is failing to comply, knowing full well what the law requires. That needs to stop. I've been going to meetings for almost 50 years. This is going from bad to worse, Mr. Chairman. You need to address that. Mr. Chairman, Keith Carson's put modular homes in his trailer park, which is not allowed by code. I couldn't put a modular home on one of my lots, which are considerably wider than the Carson trailer spot. He is not in compliance and is in violation of the trailer ordinance. I've lost 2 tenants that were issued citations for so-called code violations, $355 a pop. I had to let the tenant go. I didn't get fined, but I'm getting tired of getting citations while others are not complying with the law. Either we have a law or we don't. It applies to everybody, it applies to nobody. And you have yet to address that. I want to know why the discrimination. Where's the building inspector? You ever make it back from Eureka? Mr. Chairman, Keith Carson keeps horses within the city limits and is violating the city and NRS codes. There are times he brings in donkeys and cattle.
George, those are city issues. Those are not county issues.
Regional planning issues.
But you're addressing the city corrals and the city limits, George.
That's the only reason I'm bringing here.
We'll discuss county business. That's the city's corrals, the city's property.
I'm not talking about the city corrals.
Sorry.
I'm talking about NRS.
We won't deal with city stuff.
All right. Why does the Regional Planning Commission and your building inspector selectively enforce the law and discriminate then? Mr. Chairman, I'm concerned that your county tour and rec board may consider buying the Chamber of Commerce building. The chamber is soliciting its tour board buy their building for $100,000 and give them 5 years free rent. Mr. Chairman, the commission needs to start appointing knowledgeable people to county boards that have the best interests of the county in mind and not special interests. Stop taking commercial property off the tax rolls. I can't get a permit to re-roof my roof, to re-roof a property I own, and I'm willing to pay for it. I'm not asking for a freebie. I'm not asking for anything special. I can't sell my property to a government entity for cash and then allow me to get free rent for 5 years, let alone 10.
Your 3 minutes, that was your
Thank you,
3
sir.
minutes.
I'll be back.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Is there anybody out there on the phone that would like to comment before we go into the meeting today? It's open to anyone. We have no one in the building, but some on the phone. If anyone wants to speak, speak now. I'll make one last call for that. Hearing none, we'll just go into the meeting. Page 2, item 1, which is the county commission. Item A is a discussion for possible action to extend the county declaration of emergency until May 15th at midnight on the same terms, or include discussion and proposals of modified or additional term pursuant to resolution 2020-29. Does any commissioner have a comment here or something they'd like to see added? Or, Mr. Lee was handing us out the declaration of emergency. Anyone? Travis?
I will be supporting this, not that I'm going against what the governor said, but I don't want to endorse it, and that's where I stand.
Okay. Anyone else?
A question for attorney, if we choose to not, and the situation changes, we're free to go back, correct?
Absolutely.
Very good.
And if you recall what was in the original declaration, it was partially to manage our county different contrary to policy, and it was partially so that we're able to receive reimbursement for wages and hours that we're dedicating to this, and it's not a few. When we don't have a declaration of emergency in place, it'd be more difficult, I believe, to receive reimbursement from the federal government for the hours that we spend on COVID-19 preparation and management. And when it expires today, the original one, I believe it expires tonight, your county offices should be told that they should reschedule to regular schedules. People can go back to work normally, and they need to follow the county policy as it was prior to the declaration. So those are the kind of implications I think that should be discussed. Speaking with our finance department, but not speaking for her, it may become necessary to have a separate declaration of emergency for financial purposes, a financial emergency, because the law had fallen off a cliff with revenues, and that allows us to do something different. That's a whole nother thing. We can discuss that separately.
Okay, go ahead.
I have some comments. I know this doesn't help right now, but the governor is making have his press release early evening, 5 o'clock today. I do know through conversation that Eureka is planning on opening up their restaurants, some of the restaurants tomorrow, and that their offices are going to be opened up on Monday. There is some thought that the governor might go ahead and let the rural counties kind of take care of their own soft opening. And I'm sure that'll be with the guidelines in place. So I don't know, there's two things. I think that based on not knowing for sure what's going to happen, but it's a possibility that they'll let the rules go ahead. That'd be great, because if that at least economically get the ball rolling for the state. So I'm thinking that maybe Tuesday we have a special county commission meeting, because we won't have time, I think, to go ahead and get things noticed, and then really have take a hard look at what Dr. Bian has put it into place, see if we need to fine tune that also, so far far as our own soft opening. But I think at the latest, here, I don't know if you want to follow suit with what Eureka is doing. I think they're gonna vote on that. I think they have a meeting today. I did have a conversation with JJ this morning, but I'm throwing it out there for dialogue. I don't wanna go into anything direct.
Sure.
Any kind of opposition, well, not any kind, but so far as opposition, so far as the governor, but, I think that Elko is also planning some of their own soft opening. So the rules are really being hit hard. I mean, not to mitigate in any way, shape, or form, or minimize, what's going on around the state. But I think it's rather interesting that, in my mind, I feel like that the agriculture and mining right now is kind of carrying the state so far as being, work as progress to a certain extent. Not talking about the factories in regards to produce. So I'm thinking that maybe, that doesn't really help for today. I'm not inclined to go ahead and go another 15 days. And I don't know if we want to follow suit, but we don't have anything really that says that this is what we're gonna do.
Right, and this declaration of emergency would actually be kind of a separate, just like you just pointed out, Ms. Carson, it's separate from any kind of other action the county might take with regards to local ordinances and rules.
Well, and I didn't know if you wanted it like we did before, where we have a combination with the health board, or health officer, and take a hard look at that.
Ian?
I was informed yesterday that Douglas County is hand delivering a letter to the Capitol, and the Board of Commissioners voted and is openly encouraging their population to show up in mass, and they're not asking permission. They are informing the governor that they are going full throttle open, no ands, ifs, or buts. I'm not suggesting that's what we need to do, but that's just, we need to be aware, there is momentum around the state where people are not going to comply with this any longer.
I think that our main purpose here is our citizens of our county. And what we have is a preliminary from the governor as far as a soft opening tomorrow. We have a large amount of unemployment in the last week. So do the other rural counties. The question is, we're hearing about Eureka, Elko, Douglas County, and where they stand. I think that as we go over this declaration of emergency, it doesn't go far enough. This doesn't even come close. We sent our bullet points in with the signature of our medical doctor in. Of course, we didn't hand deliver it. We sent it via email, and I guess by email and by hard copy. But as we proceed here to move forward with this declaration of emergency, if we do, my comment on it is, we can't wait 15 more days. I mean, we've got businesses that may never reopen again. The thing that was not addressed, that one of the main reasons we have that wasn't addressed is the beauty salons and the barber shops, because they control everything through appointment only, and they can control that. But, the soft opening of a couple of recreational things, but it did not address anything that affects our employers and our employees. And by saying it's okay for us to go another 15 days and wait and see, I think Lori's got a good opinion that we have a special meeting on Tuesday to find out just exactly what he says this evening. But do we want to just go out and, I don't know that I agree with Douglas County opening up full bore, but a little stronger soft opening. We do have a situation out there. Humboldt County is really getting hammered. Humboldt County percentage-wise is the highest in the state of Nevada, with cases and with deaths, and they're way up there. But White Plain County, and this was the good news we received this morning from Dr. Byun, is White Pine County, the 3 families we had tested that had showed up with COVID-19 were tested, were found negative. As of this morning, we have 0 COVID cases. We do not have any. They were tested, they've come out negative, and so White Pine County now joins forces with a couple other counties that have 0. But this extending this emergency thing, and I think I kind of agree with Travis here, is us saying we're okay with 15 more days. But what happens in 15 days? Are we gonna be okay with 15 more? The city went ahead and declared their offices till May 31st. Not that I agree with them, but that's their business. But as we get ready to take an action on this item, I think each commissioner's input is vital. Do we want to go another 15 days on this emergency thing? We haven't heard. We got notice this morning. I thank Nicole for that. Thank you very much for giving us that early this morning. But I am so concerned about 15 days and then 15 more days, but I'm not worried that the government will catch ramifications because we take an action. This commission, White Pine County, has got to be concerned with its residents, and we're at 0. We're 250 miles from anyone. You talk about social distancing, no one is more social distance than us. We're the most remote community in the United States. 250 miles all the way around. We do not have an international airport. We have no transportation coming in here, period. We don't have a bus, a train, a plane. We have trucks come in from time to time. Of course, we have traffic there. But the spreading of the corona in White Pine County, you saw, we've been on since May 9th, March 18th. We had 3 cases. Now we have 0.
And that was brought in, that did not happen locally, that was brought in.
However it was, the item today is, does this county want to extend the emergency declaration until midnight, May 15th?
Commissioner Howe?
Yes.
If I could give a little bit,
Sure.
just go a little bit more in depth. I did have also a teleconference, I can't remember whether it was Monday or Tuesday. I had asked for footage, anyhow. And on that was some of our rural commissioners. And it was specifically to talk about the rules opening up early. And in that discussion, we talked about also doing the beauty and barber shops, as long as they've got their PPE and make their appointments. And that's possibly even on Monday. Also, that the bars can be open to 50% capacity. Restaurants with social distancing guidelines and proper care. And also, I had received an email with an inquiry from Senator Rosen's office. I had a discussion with our district attorney in responding to it. They wanted to know, she was appointed to the president's task force on this. So that said, there was 3 things that we highlighted. One of them we've talked about here so far as giving it more autonomy and giving back control to our county, through our county managers. Also talked about doing the soft opening so far as restaurants, God, let me think, recreation, retail, and along those lines. And then the third one that we did put in there was that a request for another stimulus package for individuals and their families, because the problem will be where we have not had businesses open. There's a large unemployment number, and also with the difficulty that individuals have been unable to even file because of I don't know what the glitches are, but so that would be very important for there to be another stimulus to individuals. So those were the 3 things that were highlighted going to Senator Rosen's office. So,
Does any other commissioner have anything? We could go, I have a list here of what we said to the governor and what we discussed at the last meeting, and the purpose of this special meeting which is our bullet points, which were 9, and it looks to me like maybe 2 were addressed, Lori's brought up, and we listened to the other counties, but I like the direction and the opinion of the district attorney. I understand where your position is, because you're sworn to uphold the governor, but I'd like you to give us what you think, just.
Well, just to be clear, I just put this on the agenda for discussion because it's expiring. I don't support it. I don't think it should be passed. I think we're good to, I mean, we're just talking about, again, we're not extending the county emergency doesn't mean we're telling businesses to open. We're just saying we're going back to status quo prior to the declaration of emergency to allow our county offices to open and function regularly, and some of the other things in there for federal funding purposes only. So all I need is a motion to, in a second, to pass it and have it fail, and then it expires tonight. And then on Monday morning, our county departments can go back to business as usual.
Elizabeth, you got your hand up.
Yes, I'd like to reiterate what the district attorney said about my concerns regarding the provisions in this declaration of emergency related to finance. You do have to recognize that there are provisions in here that help us to contain expenditures because we know that revenues will be in a declining cycle. So I would ask that if this is not passed, that the county commission do have a special meeting to consider a declaration of financial emergency, giving powers and authorities to ensure that for the rest of the fiscal year, we maintain a budget that's viable and we adjust and adapt to those declining revenues.
The financials she's talking about, the original, gave some discretion for departments like myself to order laptops out of budget to people to work from home.
Yes, there's a $20,000 provision in there for additional COVID supplies. I think we need to maintain that. I think we're still gonna have some impacts from that.
We can keep that in the next one.
It also provides that we can delay hiring, so that we can reduce expenditures. It provides that all non-essential purchases have to be delayed. And so by this expiring, those will go away. There's no protections then, as long as there's a budget there that people can have to restrict their spending for any reason. So that's my concern as your finance director.
We can pick up some of those and carry them on the financial declaration of emergency. All those have a nexus to the finance, obviously.
And I think along with that, we need to have a separate one, whatever you wanna call it, constitutional emergency or something, but I do think if we don't have any leeway, I think our DA's office needs to get in touch with the Nevada U.S. Attorney General and see, is this how it should be?
Shane, you got anything to say? I think the meeting, I believe that possibly having a meeting on Tuesday to listen to what takes place this evening, to get the solid ground, address Elizabeth's financial questions, and we have some other stuff that might be coming out that would be affecting the county commission. The budget is very concerning and the downward trend, because the longer every business stays locked, especially our major ones, which is gaming and tourism, the less money we're gonna have, and we could really be in a pickle. But we have to address that stuff, and I think allowing the governor's speech tonight and not, I think we should vote it, but let's listen to what he has to say, see what his direction is. Personally, I don't know what the rest of you feel, but I am not happy about staying in direct declaration of emergency for another 15 days. I'm more worried about the out part of it. And everybody in White Pine County has been very good about social distancing, abiding by the laws. One of the things that as we do it, I'll just make a quick statement. Right now is a rite of passage. Little boys play Little League, and it's Little League season. They're stuck, they can't go to school, they can't play a Little League ball game, they can't exercise. This is the time of year, and every day that goes by, it's not just the disease that's taken effect, it's the mental part of it. It's the police actions on domestic violence. We are, just by declaring a declaration, we're binding our people to their homes again for at least 15 more days. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, Mike, but that's the final statement I'll make, and if nobody else has anything to say, I'll ask for a motion. Does anybody have anything?
Mr. Chairman, the one question I do have, as we move forward and we do our meeting next week, and we're gonna be discussing more of opening up the community, what we're discussing affects the county, people outside the Ely city limits, correct?
Well, to be clear, this declaration actually only affects our county employees.
Right,
Yes.
that's this declaration.
Yes.
This controls our employees.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is when we go into discussions next week
Yes.
on further issues. Should the city of Ely choose to take a more stringent approach, what we say has no effect inside city limits on those restrictions, am I correct?
Yes and no. Actually, most of what we are controlling locally with our public health officer is countywide, city and county. Okay? So depending on what this board decides it wants to do in discussions with Dr. Biyun, it could affect everyone. However, this board doesn't have authority over what the city does when it controls business licenses, business closures within the city. So there is some division of authority. So when we talk about all those orders that Dr. Biyun put in place, that authority comes from this, or the Public Health Board, okay? And that affects everyone. But the city still has its own autonomy to control business and other regulations pertaining thereto. So when you say, correct me if I'm wrong, I just want to make sure you understand, Mr. Chairman, this declaration of emergency is very limited in scope. It's really just about how we operate here and with some of our finances. The other big picture things you guys are talking about right now would have to be addressed next week. And we can get into a lot of it in the next agenda item because it deals with what we sent to the governor.
Just to clear up what he said,
Yes.
because I'm just a heritage, a good point, is the mayor has declared a declaration of emergency up to May 31st.
Correct.
If we go ahead and do what we're taking different action, and we open up a little bit, can the business downtown, the Hotel Nevada, if we declare it okay, can the city override us and say, you're not
Yes,
opening in the city?
because they're
Okay.
within the city.
Okay, that's another point that really.
And this has more to do with the next item and what we're going to discuss next Tuesday, I understand it. Are we bound to enforce that?
Are we bound to enforce?
Is our sheriff bound to enforce that? Should the city and county come up with two different sets of regulations? The county handles the law enforcement. Are we bound to enforce
this?
a separate set?
So I can't speak for the sheriff if he's listening. He's likely gonna tell you he's gonna enforce state law. And so will I on a case-by-case basis. We still have no control over the licensing for city businesses. The sheriff wouldn't. If they pulled the license, they could lose their state license as well, and that's not even the sheriff. I mean, theoretically, if they don't have a license and they're operating a business, the sheriff is entitled to the law to shut them down, with or without this board's consent.
Which would be unfortunate, because at the same time, they'll lose the tax base
Yes.
in regards to that.
So as we move forward, we'll have to discuss these things, and I can answer your questions personally, any kind of legal questions with different approaches you're considering. But that's kind of the landscape. It's a little pockmarked and dangerous.
That's what I'm wondering, if maybe we need to be considering a joint meeting between ourselves and the city council, so that when we do come up with a plan, we come up with it together in a unified fashion that comes up, that works edge to edge for White Pine County, including the city of Ely.
It's not a bad idea.
Maybe we could do that, we might have to have a different location, but the city, health officer and the county, I don't know if that's enough time to put that together for Tuesday, but I think it would be important.
We'll have to put our feelers out and see if they would entertain a meeting.
Okay.
Just, another thought is the sheriff is under contract to be the city's police chief. So even if we tell him not to, the city can probably still ask him to.
No call.
Just want to let you guys know that unless this is an emergency meeting, the earliest we can hold this meeting is Wednesday.
We could do a Wednesday afternoon possibly.
Scott, are you on the phone? Today's Friday,
Yeah, he just sounded off.
Have you been listening to what DA has said? Do you have any input?
No, Mike's correct.
Thank you.
Another first.
Shockingly enough.
Who's the
Okay.
best to be able to say that?
Thanks. Anybody else got anything? We're gonna try to look for a motion on this first item to see if we can get any action on it. So I'll look for a motion to extend the declaration of emergency until May 15th. Do I have that motion? I'll call a second time. Do I have a motion to extend the county declaration of emergency until May 15th? Twice, and I'll do it one more time. Is there a motion? Hearing none, dies for lack of motion.
Okay, so our emergency will sunset tonight at midnight.
Correct.
And then we just need to let your liaisons, talk to your departments, let them know that they should go back to following the county policy and regular work hours on Monday.
But the social distancing provisions and whatnot.
That still stays in place.
That stays, yeah, I was gonna say, don't confuse.
Yeah, we need to
Yeah.
reiterate that that still needs to stay.
Okay. Yes.
I have a question, or maybe a point of clarification, that I have a staff member who is going to choose to stay home self-isolating for 15 more days. And since the declaration is lifted, those individuals need to use annual leave now instead of sick leave.
That's correct.
Okay.
And since it expires tonight, I guess that starts tomorrow, May 1st.
So what is, do we send, I guess Nicole sends an email out to everybody that this action has been taken,
Okay.
that we go back into effect on Monday?
Let me address that real quick.
Okay.
The federal legislation still has it in place though, on the CARES Act, to use sick leave for COVID related, so it depends on circumstances. There's still that extension to FMLA.
Yes, if anybody has questions, they can reach out to Tim in Human Resources for clarification on the right under the CARES Act.
There still may be use of sick leave, right? So that's, I don't wanna give you a straight answer on that.
Yeah.
But that avenue does narrow.
Yeah.
Significantly.
Okay, we're gonna stay on page 2 and we're gonna go to item B. Actually, I'll give, anybody else got anything to say?
I just wanted to say that Commissioner Gokachia was appointed to represent the rules as this soft opening in phase 1 starts to move forward. So, and we will be in close contact also with NACO,
Who appointed me?
the governor. He got a phone call last night.
All right. We're gonna go on to item B. Item B is discussion for possible action to ratify to send an updated letter including comments from commissioners and various community stakeholders to the governor requesting limited exemption from statewide directives to allow local authority to control and regulate social distancing measures and limited and flexible opening of certain activities dependent on current status of community spread COVID-19, if any, consistent with federal guidelines under the advice and counsel of our local health officer. So,
Was that included as backup? No.
Yeah, it's attached online and a couple days ago.
And that's right here too. Okay, great. And there's just a typo there, it says form statewide, it should be from, that's, you can tell that I drafted that, because that's what I always do. But, I try to include every commissioner's thoughts on what should be included in this letter. The only concern was whether we should have sent a letter or not, so as not to draw attention to us, but as you can see statewide, we're all of a sudden now even more reasonable than most other counties at this point.
Which is not a bad position to be in.
No, and the letter I think it's very reasonable. It's drawing attention to, I think it's really well articulated why the counties, rural counties should have local control. I mean, we have been all over this. Our hospital's in great shape, our health officers functioning perfectly with looking at our case-by-case situation, and we are prepared, I think, to handle it locally should the governor allow us to.
And that's why it was so important to talk about our ability to be able to do that. We have test kits, we have the ability to do tracking, and especially for now that we follow Dr. Behan's guidelines so far as our social distancing, and also keeping track of like if we go into restaurants, so far as all of that, so far as the PPE, so far the waiters or waitresses or whatever, being able to have gloves, disinfectants, that type of stuff, that still will remain in place. But it's important, our hospitals are in good shape.
Let me give you one example of how we're in better shape than the state. The state right now is playing around with this idea that they want to do random testing of populations in the counties. They don't even know how they're gonna do that yet. They want those to go back to the state lab, but those test kits haven't been sent out to the counties, right? Meanwhile, our hospital says they have 600 plus tests, and they can donate 100 tests to test randomly our population at 1% and send those results to the state lab. And set up the whole random thing and be ready to do it. And the state wants to slow roll that because it's not their tests. And their lab is not yet ready to take those tests and do them for free. So we're still in a situation where the hospital's willing to play ball, willing to do whatever the state wants to give them the data they need to make decisions, like turning it over to local control. But we're unable to because the state's not yet prepared
Right.
or
And also-
organized to handle that kind of stuff.
Right, and also for us and Eureka, where we have REACH and we have MedX that are here, so far as being able, if need to be used.
I think it's important to also identify that even if we did get a positive test or some small community spread, we're able to jump on it, isolate, trace it,
Yes,
and set up procedures and quarantines to protect this. It doesn't mean we flip back into some sort of state of emergency. Unless Dr. Bune says we got a problem, this, like Humboldt or whatever, it's spread in these certain areas and we're unable to trace it, then we have to go back to the whole, So anyway, that's,
well,
this
yeah,
letter trying to articulate that we have the capability to do that.
to be able to ratchet back, should it be, and I think that we've done over 1% of our community so far as testing.
We've tested over 1% of our population already.
One thing we've done here is, based on the other counties and what we've discussed here this morning, is there is a definite separation between what the rural counties can do and how well we're doing as opposed to what the state's doing and the direction that they're going. My own opinion is we're almost imprisoned because we're being directed by just one community instead of the 17. And all the rurals are not up in arms, but we need these people back to work. This is a serious matter. When you look at unemployment in 1 week of 89 and 86 and 81%, and getting worse. And then the other part of this is, the longer we delay this and we have a difference of opinion, if the counties can get hold of some of these people who are fighting for unemployment and can't get through to Dieter or any place to get their unemployment in, we are definitely a different committee than the governor, or the government. I don't want to isolate and say the state government is trying to run us in one umbrella. We're different, every one of us. Eureka, White Pine, 0, Churchill, 0. And other rural counties have a very small amount. I listened to a thing yesterday with the state of California with 39 million people is 0.003 as far as their infections and their deaths. White Pine County is 0.0034. So we're equal to a state bordering us that has all kinds of different openings, like getting a haircut. You go to St. George and get a haircut. Before tomorrow, you can go to play golf or do whatever you want, but you can't do it within the boundaries of your state because we're being directed based on our biggest populated community of 3 million people. And the rurals, I think, are in line with the businesses we gotta get this country and we gotta get ourselves back going. We need our community, we need our life back. And there's such a separation between the state and the counties. I mean, there really is. I hope you all agree with that. So what we've taken place today and the letter we sent, does anybody have any questions on the letter that we all put our input in and Mike sent off? And that's what does anybody have anything, Shane?
Yeah, the one thing that, that concerns me, I'd like to discuss is, or just bring up, is the fact that so much of this control was brought in to keep us from overwhelming our healthcare system. And, so all of a sudden, everybody's come up with the idea in their head that if I go to that hospital, I'm gonna catch COVID-19, because everybody out there's got COVID-19. Consequently, if you looked in the obituaries lately, I'm seeing a huge number of people that are dying, and what my concern is, are these people dying because they chose to forego medical care because of this fear? Because we put so much emphasis on controlling what went to our hospitals so they weren't overwhelmed, that we've had a lot of people sitting home that have suffered life-threatening maladies because they were scared to death to go to a hospital. I spent 4 days at that hospital last week with my father. It's borderline empty. There was 2 other patients in there in 4 days. We sat in the emergency room, first time in my life, sat in that emergency room for 6 hours he was the only patient. People are avoiding medical care like crazy, and that concerns me.
Yeah, there's about 7 deaths in Ely per month. This month there was 20, non-COVID related, but just
That's interesting.
regular,
Correct.
exactly Shane's point.
And had we had the normal death rate for COVID-19, it would have been, 4% of our total population, 4 people. But it's interesting to think about, and I hope that's not true.
I do too. Now, I don't know if any of it might have to do with having elective surgeries. I think that's changed now too, that the governor is,
I hadn't seen it yet, but who knows, we'll see. I've heard that might be lifting as well.
yeah.
I think it's important for any public that's listening, any media that's listening, to understand that White Pine County has been very proactive in, 1, following the governor's orders, 2, activating our emergency operations center for the first time since we built it. 3, holding weekly meetings to discuss a roundtable with the sheriff's office, the hospital, county officials, city officials, the mining industries, and other important community leaders to make sure that all the PPE was being shared, that everyone had different resources to get it here. I mean, it was a model response to this, and that's why there has been no outbreak in this community, because we all play ball. The question is now, where do we go from here? So, and hopefully, that lockdown didn't end up costing more lives. The governor's lockdown didn't cost more lives than it needed to in the rules. But that study remains to be seen.
Yeah, I think it's important to say too that if an individual calls the clinic or the hospital and think that they might have it, they make arrangements for when that individual comes up. They do not get out of their vehicle, that the hospital or the clinic comes out to them to test them.
Yeah, and to be clear, the hospital has always been open for everyone and will
Yes.
handle those kind of things. It's just maybe people were avoiding it on their own.
It's the perception.
Yeah,
That's, and yes, to get in there is tougher. I've had my temperature taken so many times this last week, I couldn't tell you. But it's, and they have been fantastic about operating. And not one time did anybody just say, oh, go ahead and go on back. I mean, they were very stringent on. But you look around the country, we've set up these mobile hospitals in parks. We brought hospital ships in, and they have been grossly underwhelmed and underutilized. And I think a good portion of that is people are scared to death to go to a medical facility, because if I go there, I'm gonna get it. That place is just crawling with it.
Well, should this come back in the fall, or should something happen during the summer, regardless of the governor's directives, this board and this community is, right now, it's about as prepared as we can be to handle. So, anyway, I ask that this letter be ratified. It was
I
sent.
make the motion to ratify the letter that was sent to the governor.
Motion by Lori, second by Ian. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Passed unanimous. Okay, that being said, we've dealt with the 2 agenda items that we had today, and we're gonna go into public comment. Is there any public comment on the phone? Anyone out there?
You should be able to click raise hand if they would like to. Just click the raise hand if you'd like to speak. And it should appear at the top if they do.
Do you see anything?
No.
Okay. In the building, George, would you like to comment on what was taking place today?
Yes.
Okay, come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I brought this up before and I'm bringing it up again. You need to solicit the newspaper to let the community know what's going on. Previously, the newspaper put out an ad, basically said, what if America didn't notice? Public notices help expose fraud in government, dishonest businesses, unfair competitive practices. Find out about these much more in your local newspaper. Participate in democracy. Read your public notices. You read the paper, you read about dogs or animals. We have some real issues here and they need to be addressed. We're not getting that. Mr. Chairman, in viewing the hospital site, it stated that you had approximately 123 tests. 3 were positive. I think 112 came out negative, but there's 8 pending. Where are those 8 pending from? Are they local? Ely, McGill, Ruth, Lund? Why would you put down pending if we were 0? And you talked about the 3 that were infected, they brought it in from out of the area. I've brought my concerns before you. Here you got a construction project coming up shortly. You're gonna bring in 200 to 300 outside workers possibly coming from infected areas. I have a concern about that. 15 days is nothing compared to another 60 or 90 days if we have to extend this darn thing. I just want you to be cognizant of that fact. I want to be open, but I don't want to be foolish either. Mr. Chairman, in the past I brought forward that I wanted you to create a victims fund, and I was told that there is one. Okay, who controls it? Where are they located at? Is it a county, state, or city entity? I want to go there and get my money. Mr. Chairman, you spent a lot of money on the sound system. Here it is, partially used, if it's used. You got to set it up. I get complaints that my volume is not up to par. That's true. But part of it is your problem. Some of you don't speak loudly enough. The taxpayers bought a sound system that isn't connected, and believe it or not, I'm unhappy. The people I do service for are not happy. They need to know. They want to know. You don't have any newspaper here. Mr. Chairman, you know who sits on the county commission is yet to account for the missing rental money for S&S Railroad?
We discussed that, George, well, that's a city thing, we're not gonna go into that, thank you.
That's not city, that was the county.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, you know who has yet to, excuse me, let me start over. You're frustrating, believe it or not. You're doing a good job.
There you go.
I'm gonna get right in line with you. You know who has yet to, you know what, with their non-ADA compliant sidewalk located, you know where. You know who sits on, you know what board, setting down, you know what rules, and you know who is not complying with, you know what. They need to resign or comply. You know what I'm talking about?
I know
And
what.
you know who.
I know
You need to
what
address it.
is 3 minutes. Thank you, George. Thank you.
You need to address it.
Gotcha.
You know, there's things, there's malfeasance, misfeasance, and nonfeasance.
Your 3 minutes are up. Okay, we were discussing it while we're in public comment. I guess this is the time. Are we going to have a meeting on Wednesday, Nicole said, to discuss the financial impacts with Elizabeth, but also to try to.
This has been a Georgetown production. George Chachis reporting.